Hey everybody, welcome to our New Hampshire AT Connect AT Expert series. We're here with Elisa today. She likes that. She likes that idea of AT Expert. It made her so uncomfortable, visibly uncomfortable. I also call this our AT National Presenters webinar series. That's I agree. I would absorb that one a little better too. Alyssa's here today to talk about all kinds of great and amazing things with interactive whiteboard tools. And so instead of listening to me, I'm just going to turn it over to her and say thank you. And I'll be here in the background.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Thank you for having me. My hope is that you walk away after this knowing what tools are out there and which tool, depending on the setting that you're working in, might be the best for you. So I am going to put in the chat box this link, but the QR code and the link will take you to the same place. It takes you to these slides. And basically these slides have a whole bunch of, I can't type and write at the same time, apparently, a whole bunch of interactive links and resources. And you'll see as we get in and are looking through the tools, you'll see that having access to the slides might be helpful, whether you're watching this live or you're watching after the fact. So I will drop that link in and kind of periodically kind of reset it into the chat box. So we're going to jump in and get started.
Alyssa, I'll drop it in the chat box to save you the trouble.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So we are going to get started very briefly because yes, AT Expert series sounds a little formal for my tastes. Who I am an OT. I am licensed to practice in both Florida, where I live, and Texas, where I've done some work. I work full-time as an AT specialist and the lead OT at Alachua County Public Schools in Gainesville, Florida. Do get a salary from them. And really no other pieces of what I do is really relevant to today. And you can find all of my disclosure information at this link if you're interested in knowing more, as well as my email. I'm active on both Twitter and Instagram under that same Wern, EDAT. So today, really, I want you to walk away being able to identify at least 3. We're going to cover 4 whiteboard tools that could be used collaboratively with students, whether you are a therapist or a teacher or a parent even, who are paired to kind of the goals that you're working on with them. And then wanting you to be able to at least discuss 3 kind of specific tools within those tools that would be beneficial to use to help meet student goals. So as we jump in, one other link is that I do have a wakelet of resources. And this is all resources that are, I'll open over here, that are whiteboard educator-based resources. So you'll see getting started resources, you're see links to more resources, some things that are in our presentation, this presentation today, some things that are not. And so I want people to have access to that because I always have a hard time in a presentation if I hear a resource, being able to capture it and know what is it that I want to go back to and look at later. So this short link or QR code will take it to the wakelet. The best way to think about a wakelet is it's as if Padlet and Pinterest had a baby. So you get the visual organization and structure kind of a Padlet, and then the video and rich kind of pictures and images of Pinterest. So it's kind of a one-stop shop for everything on a topic, and in this case, for a topic about whiteboard tools. So why would we want to utilize whiteboard tools? Really, when we think about whether you're doing tele-rehab, as an occupational therapist, whether you're an educator, really it's about increasing engagement in a means that a student could access, right? So you may have students that are in multiple settings, right? Or that are joining your class from hospital homebound. Let's say you have your 15, 16, 18, 20 students in a class, but you have 2 or 3 that are joining you virtual. And sometimes it's about setting the stage for independent work or that homework to be done in a way that's more engaging, right? And there have been research studies that have shown improvement on everything from the more critical kind of like handwriting tools when you're talking about occupational therapy, as well as their overall motivation, engagement. And again, it's just a way to set the stage from a UDL perspective of multiple means of representation. So today we're going to kind of jump through 4 tools. I'm going to kind of show you the features, and we may have a little bit of time to jump in and play with each one, depending on how things will go. And you'll have those links to go back and kind of dig into deeper later. We're going to talk about Jamboard. We're going to talk about Microsoft Whiteboard. We're going to talk about Explain Everything. And then the last one is Whiteboard.chat. So we're going to start with Jamboard, and it's probably one of the more well-known whiteboard tools. It's part of the Google suite of tools. So if you have access to Google, you have access to Jamboard, and you might not know that you have access to it. But if you get into Google Gmail or and are using Google Slides, you have this interactive whiteboard tool that's just hanging out. So if you use Google Classroom, you can assign a Jamboard as a part of your assignments. You can create a copy for each student, or they can work in one of them collaboratively. It does support multiple users in it at a time. There's a lot of adjustments that you can do. Right now, it is limited to 50 collaborators. So if you have a big workshop you're doing, it may not be the right tool because only 50 people can get in. So this on the screen is an example of one of many kind of interactive ways that you can utilize Jamboard. And I'm not going to open that one up. I'm going to open up her Twitter. So under the Twitter handle Gifted Talk, she has done a ton of work in the area of Jamboards, and you can see almost every day she shares Jamboards that she has made. So blackout puzzles. She does amazing things with Jamboard that I never knew you could do with Jamboard. So dot plots and number puzzles. And so you can access them through her Twitter, but you also, her Linktree has all of the resources, and 99.9% of them are free. She has a donate, but there's rebus puzzles and door dares and make your own Valentines, tons of things. And the best way to kind of describe it is, if it's something that you would maybe do static on a worksheet, Jamboard is a really great way to build in that interactive element to it. And this could be whole class, you bring it up on your interactive whiteboard in front of all of your students, and they take turns doing it. If you are in a one-to-one kind of tech setup, each of your students could have access to it and be working in it to complete their assignments. So we're going to look at an example of a Jamboard, and what it allows you to do. I just realized that link in there I need to update, and I will, is that it allows you to go in and be interactive. You can use it in a Chrome browser like you see now. There's a Jamboard app that's available for free, both on iOS and on Android. And there are a couple differences between the two. The toolbars look a little bit different. You'll see on the web version, you have your toolbars over on this side. You've got, and they've updated it since we did this, you've got a text tool, you've got some pens, you've got an eraser, your kind of select tool, you can put sticky notes in, can add images, you can add shapes, the text box, and then there's this fun little laser tool that you can use to highlight the information, and then it disappears from your screen just to kind of grab the student's attention. In the app itself, the biggest difference is where you can insert material from. So if you're using Jamboard and you're using it to set it up on your iPad or on an Android phone or tablet, you can actually insert things from Drive. So you can drop in a worksheet that's a PDF and just pull the page out of it that you want, right? And they can use it as an interactive worksheet, which is great. Again, in the app, there are a couple of other features. All of the pen tools on the top are the same. What you have in the app is these assistive drawing tools, okay? Everything from, if you write your letters in the app, it will recognize them and turn them into text, which is kind of amazing. And if you have a student that's working on handwriting, giving them the ability to write with their finger or a stylus and having the computer recognize it or not recognize it, it's a lot better to receive that feedback from the computer instead of an adult. The same with shapes. You can draw those shapes, or there's this kind of magic drawing tool called Auto Draw that allows you to start drawing something. Let's say you wanted to start drawing a bicycle, and it gives you on the bottom choices. Did you mean to draw a bicycle? Did you mean to draw this? Did you mean to draw that? It allows you to go in and, again, draw some digitally enhanced shapes. And for students who don't have a lot of confidence as an artist, it does actually, you know, help them to grow in their confidence and add features as they're using it. So those are things on the app. So in terms of sharing, it's just like anything else Google, right? So you can share a link, you can share it via Classroom, or you can change the access so that somebody can just view or somebody can edit. So again, what's nice about this is that if you don't have to worry if you're working digitally about giving somebody cursor control or computer control or using a Chrome app to do it. You just can invite them to it just like you would a Google Doc, give them editing rights, and you'll see in a minute what that looks like because I did that for you all. And then they have the ability to go in and draw and annotate and move just like you see me doing it on the screen. So what we're going to do now is you have the ability to jump in and do it. So there are two ways that you can do it. You can either use the short link, or you can use the QR code that is on the screen. And basically what it's going to do is open up that, oh, you beat me to it, Mike, awesome. Open up that jam and allow you to get access into the jam. And you'll see the first pages like I covered, but if you open it up and you move into the pages after that one that I was in, and you get to page 4, 5, you'll see there's some things in there to play around with. So on page 4, you can go in and try to put a sticky note in. You can try to add a picture and see how it goes. And you'll see there's some example activities in there. Everything from helping the caterpillar get to the butterfly, to being able to go in and use the size of the problem, which is a really great resource that's connected to zones of regulation. So you can get your select tool and have that student go in and be like, oh, you know, I'm not sure what kind of size of the problem it is, or I broke my pencil, that's a very little problem. So I see some of you have been able to jump into the Jamboard, so feel free to grab a tool, play around with it. You can add an extra page. This one, you guys have full edit rights to do things. You can come into the snowman page and move shapes around to add to the snowman, just to give yourself a little bit of an experience of what it looks like. You can go and get the pen drawing tool and go through the maze if you'd like, or you can go in to any of the pages and add things or move things around. Yep, I see a little anonymous horse working through the maze. And what's nice is that if you are doing it as a collaborative document, you as a teacher can see all of the students and where they are and what they're doing, right? So they would be logged into their Google account. So they could go, you would be able to see what are they doing, where are they in the document. And again, like on the gray box, you can add text, you can erase the text, you can drop a sticky note in there and move it around. You can add pages, you can clear the page out. There's nothing you can do in this document that would harm it. So this is your chance to go and play around with one and figure out what is it that it can do. And again, these are some basic examples of what Jamboard can do as an activity. Any questions about Jamboard? Anybody who's used Jamboard and has a specific way that they've used it? You can unmute or you can drop in the chat box. And what's nice about the examples that are out there is that almost all of these are set up so that you can click and it automatically prompts you to make a copy of it. So then one lives in your Google Drive. You don't have to go Go out and get it. There are tons of examples out there, science, social studies. So this is one that, you know, she did, that's a number puzzles one, right? So you can go in and as a warm-up activity, even to be able to have the students figure out, okay, each empty grid has numbers, right? Where n is the number of empty squares, each of them should be equal and true. Like, again, be able to take this from a lower elementary to an upper elementary to a middle or high school kind of activity, I think is really what's nice about Jamboard. It is as flexible of a platform as you make it, because it starts as a blank whiteboard application, right? So that's kind of that first option. And again, we know a lot of folks have access to Google Chrome and all of the Google atmosphere, but we know that not everybody does, right? So there are some other options of things that you can use that are not connected to a platform, right? So this is Explain Everything. Explain Everything is an app, an iOS, an Android app, but it is also available to be used cloud-based on any website that you can get to. So it's collaborative. You as the educator would invite them with a code. Students don't need an account, so it's really great in places where being able to have access to student accounts is limited for students who are under 13 for privacy reasons, for good reasons, but you still want them to interact, right? You can do things like screen capture video and audio. So really great if your student maybe isn't at school and you want to catch them up on, here's how I taught the specific math problem. Only the leader, so that's that educator who sets up the Explain Everything, can be the one that records, which is a nice safety feature. You can add PDFs. There are some limits for the free cloud version. And you can have 25 people in a session, but it tends to work better because of the way that the screen is laid out if you use it for a small group or individual work. So I'm going to kind of show you an Explain Everything kind of demo and show you some of the tools that are available. So this is kind of what it looks like on the web. Obviously on an app, it's going to look slightly different. And when you come in, you can put anything in. So I added these driving letters, which happen to be from lesson picks. And in this case, we set it up as a modeling opportunity for a student using AAC. You'll see this little play button down here in the bottom. You can play the video that models
ride, drive, 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 drive.
That AAC app, whatever it is. This happens to be Lampwords for Life. And at the same time, you can be modeling that concept of drive by taking the car and driving it to make the letters, right? So over on this side, you have all of the tools that are available. And again, a lot of them look very similar to what you would see in most whiteboard apps. You have the ability to add media. So this one, you can add videos, you can add a sticky note, you can add clip art, you can add audio that you've recorded or a video that you've recorded, right? So this video of the AAC app happened to be something that was recorded on an iPad. We have it, we uploaded it, and now it's available on that screen. So this select is just your select tool. You have a drawing tool, you have a highlighter tool, you have erasers, you have a bucket fill, so you could take something and make it all the same color. You can add shapes and text. You can cut out just portions of it. You can always delete. There's an undo button, which is fantastic down here. It does also have that laser pointer kind of feature, so you can use it to kind of draw attention to what's happening. And then there is an inspector tool that allows you to do lots of other deeper features in terms of grouping and ungrouping things, locking and unlocking things. But at its bare minimum, you can utilize it to just do that, those main features. And again, it's dependent on whatever it is that you wanted to upload, right? So this is that main page, and I could go and I could say, I want to upload a screenshot or a new photo. Let's say I wanted to just put a file there. I could do that on a blank page Or I could just say I want clip art. Like I just want a fun little picture of a baseball because I know that kid loves baseball and I know we're going to work through something about baseball too, right? I can lock this so that it doesn't move around, which is a nice feature. The only way to do that in Jamboard is to set it as the background, which you absolutely can do. So this next page has three different ways actually to get in. You can either go to explain everything on your iPad, on an Android device, or on the website and put in that 2, 4, 6, 8 letter code. You can go to the link, or you can use the QR code. And that's going to allow you to get access to that explain everything document that I just opened up. And it will allow you to, again, go in and play around. That's the short link that will get you into this document up here. And again, you could add people individually. So if you had just a student you wanted to add, you could do that. But then everybody else comes in kind of as a miscellaneous anonymous person, which again, if you're in a place where you don't have student accounts, can be really beneficial. You can send it to just a parent or a student by email, but you don't have to, okay? So once you're in, you can go in and navigate pages. You can use the little page navigator to figure out where are the pages that I want to go visit, but you guys can go in and add something, pick a page that has a construction vehicle on it and practice driving a letter. Use any of the tools that are on there and go in, and I see somebody making a bee. Once you figure out how to drag it, and we just happened to drop in a bunch of letters when we were making this example, but you can use it to add sticky notes, to add resources, to add images. I see people playing around with adding images. You can add text, and I do like that they give you some options in text size and color. They do give you some font options. They have the Open Dyslexic font in there, which is really nice to see. So you can come in and say, I want to type something. And it can be as free form as you want it to be. Again, you could preset the activity with a ton of resources that you want to have access to. I see somebody is a Boston baseball fan. Or you can go in and you can start with a blank whiteboard. Oftentimes that's the best way to draw students in, is be like, okay, we want to do a writing activity today. Let's talk about, what do we want to write about? Let's go find a picture. What's nice about using the clip art is that it is kind of a safe setup of clip art. You could have pictures ready. You know, you could open up another window that's not where your screen is, and have you know, a GIF search on and pull in a GIF that works. So it's very versatile in what you can add and how you can add it. And you can start again with a blank slate, or you can start with this pre-thought activity of, I really want to focus on the word drive. And one way I know I can do that is that I can have this kid drive the car on the letters, because they're really highly engaged in cars. So that's a really great target word for us to work. And it just so happens we're doing it in another interactive option or way. So that is explain everything, which is kind of, again, it's kind of a blank slate. It's nice for those who, again, can't, you know, use Google for whatever reason, don't have access to other apps, but students have devices. So because it can be used on a Chromebook or on an iPad or an Android tablet, it's very versatile in that space. So anything that you've noticed about either Jamboard or explain everything that you think you could utilize as a part of your kind of toolkit? Is there a feature you like? Is there something that you wish it could do? See, Mike's a big fan of explain everything. I think it's so versatile. Again, It is helpful in places where you're a little tightly restricted in the apps you can use and what could be approved, because there are no accounts that are needed, no signups, no student information. It's just a link that's shared, which is nice to have. And the ability to lock an image onto the screen. Yeah. A lot of times that's kind of the snafu of a lot of programs, is that you get a great image or a worksheet or something that you want to be able to use, and you put it in there and you're like, great, kids can go annotate on it. And the very first kid goes on and either moves it all around or deletes it. So being able to lock that image on the screen is helpful. And it definitely helps that educator to be able to prep materials ahead of time, and yet know that, you know, nobody's going to go in there and delete it when they do that worksheet. You like that Explain Everything does a little more than Jamboard, and there's no accounts. Yeah. Depending on what the activity is, you know, there are some reasons maybe I would pick Jamboard and some reasons that I would pick Explain Everything. So it definitely has a place in the space of interactive whiteboards. And we know that there are some districts that don't have access to Google. Maybe for whatever reason they could or couldn't use Explain Everything, but they are a Microsoft district. So Microsoft does have a product that's called Microsoft Whiteboard. It is also iOS, Android, and cloud-based as an option. One of its kind of bugaboos or snafus about it is that you can invite with a link or a code, but you need an account to create or access it. So that works perfectly if you're in a district where everyone has a Microsoft account because they're using Office 365 already. But it is difficult if you aren't in a place where everyone has that Microsoft account. So it does have a sticky note, a pen function, rulers, some of that ink to shape, kind of like we saw with the auto draw in Jamboard, ink to table, so you can kind of build a table that way. There are some template options. I kind of feel like it was built for business and maybe beginning brainstorming and not necessarily the work we do as educators. But we're really creative as educators and always find a way for it to kind of magically work with what we already are doing, right? So again, you have to be using it with a free Microsoft account. That could be through Outlook or Hotmail or Live or Xbox, or through that personal work or school Office 365 account. And you have to sign in. So for that reason, I'm going to show you it. But I know that not everybody watching maybe would have access to the account. So I'm going to show you what it looks like via the web. And then we can kind of talk about, are there features there that would make it helpful for an account? So let me jump into that real quick. And again, if this is the tool that you have access to, there's a lot that you can do with it. It's gonna make me, see, this is part of the reason I don't like it. All right. Okay, it'll let me open finally. Maybe, finally. Yes. Part of the reason I don't like it. But see, I knew that was gonna happen. All right, so Microsoft is flummoxing me. And I'm gonna see, because I was able to log in before on the web. Let me try it one more time. Oh, that's right. Hold on. All right. So I do have the app on this computer. There we go. Okay. So again, Whiteboard, just like everything, keeps kind of growing, and there are more templates. You can use reactions. Your ability to kind of drop things in is very similar to some of the other stuff. You can make sticky notes. There's always a way to make sticky notes in almost every one of these. Text, add in basic shapes, right? Which could be good if you're doing a flow chart. You can add in emoji reactions, which is partly new. You can add in images, and then where I tend to go the most when I am using this is templates. So you'll see they did fairly good job building out some template categories. If you go into the learning template and let's say, you wanted to use it as an exit ticket or your basic KWL, I could launch that and just drop it in on the whiteboard that I'm using. I can then make it bigger so that it is accessible and able to be seen. And you'll see that the template is there. You can go in and edit those sticky notes that you drop in. So once you get access and you're in, there is some useful things that you could do in there. And again, they have Kanban boards, they have a start, stop, continue. You could build your lesson plan. I do have some staff that have built out kind of their structure of their small groups in Microsoft Whiteboard and projected up on the whiteboard so that the students know, okay, we're doing this, and then we're doing this. Normally I wouldn't drop it all on one screen, but just for the sake of demo. Like you could put your lesson plan up here. When the teachers are observed, sometimes they'll project their lesson plan up so that the students know, here's what we're doing as activities, here's what we're doing as assignments, here's what the objective is. Since they're supposed to post their objectives and goals, sometimes it's easier to do that electronically. And then outside of the learning ones, if you were just doing brainstorming, there are a ton of other brainstorming activities, mood boards, topic brainstorms. And then there are just fun games where you have a template for choose your favorite or two truths and a lie. So again, I'm in the same space. We're not a Microsoft district in the district I work in, but the templates are really nice. And I'm hopeful that we may see some of that grow into some of the other districts and spaces, the programs that are available, because again, just the templates alone was a really nice setup. And I think, so the retrospective one, you can go do like a mad, sad, glad, or a very rose, thorn, and bud. Again, some SEL stuff, some social emotional learning stuff is built in, which is kind of nice. And that didn't used to be there. So a year or two ago, those templates did not exist. And so the hope with every one of these programs is that they keep getting better, right? So that is Microsoft Whiteboard. And again, once you kind of dig through the difficulties of how the accounts work as a Microsoft district, being able to have access to those is fantastic. And yeah, I agree, having those templates in Jamboard or having quick access to some of those resources would be really, really nice. So we already talked about the templates. Is there anything else about the way that Microsoft Whiteboard lays out its tools that you really like? Or that you wish were different? There are ways to take those templates and kind of build out Jamboard or build out Explain Everything, or the last tool we're going to talk about, the whiteboard.chat. There are ways to take those templates, but they are very sleek. They've done a really nice job in Microsoft to make that work. And again, even if one teacher is using in a classroom, going and using some of those templates to help students organize their work, I think that's great. So again, just because you don't have access to Google doesn't mean that there's not an alternative product that could meet those features. And again, when we come back to it, this is all about student engagement. Right? Our students aren't engaged in whatever we're asking them to do. The chances of them really digging deep and wanting to participate and showing us what they know is really, really, really low, right? So that is the third option. The last option is I could do an hour workshop just on whiteboard.chat. But I know that lots of people haven't seen it. And so I want to make sure that I gave it enough time, right? So it is iOS, Android, cloud-based. One of my favorites is it's free to use. You don't have to have a Google account or a Microsoft account or any other anything. A lot like Explain Everything, it's collaborative. You can invite with the code. Students can log in, right? But they don't have to log in. So depending on how your school district or organization is set up, anybody can record video and audio. Whiteboard.chat also has a direct video call feature built into it. You can have up to 125 people in a whiteboard at once, multiple devices at a time. One of the features that is amazing is that you as the teacher or therapist can see the students' work as they're working, and I'll show you what that looks like. But students can't see or mess with other students' work, right? They've built in something called the Spotlight feature that allows you to bring up a student's work anonymously that the whole class can look at. And it does give that ability for real-time correction or assistance versus getting a grade on it and going back later and maybe forgetting where in the process you were working on it and why you were having a struggle at that time. So I do want to show you, but the easiest way to show you is for me to be both a student and a teacher. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of create the space where I am in there as an educator on the left side of my screen, and the right side of my screen is as a student. You can have co-teachers, which is great for places that are doing, co-teaching as their model for support for special education. You can lock the board so nobody can do anything. They can see it, but they can't go jump ahead and do their work. You can download everything as a single PDF, which gives you real-time work samples. It has immersive reader built into it. You can add PDFs or images. And if you are a user of previous Smartboard software and used the Infinite Cloner at all, there's one other product that had that called the Infinite Cloner. They have built it back into this tool, which I think is really, really cool. So what I'm going to do is real quick, I'm going to jump in as the educator. And yes, as you're saying in the chat box, super responsive. I've had the chance to have a couple of meetings with them and ask for specific things. And within 48 hours, that thing was available back again in the resource center. They've added in whiteboard papers for me. They've changed tools that I wanted to have do something. So from that perspective, they are incredibly responsive as a program. It's a program that was built out of the pandemic. They are parents and software programmers who happened to see the teacher frustrations and thought, hey, I should probably use my talents for good, and they've built this product out of that. So what you will see, it asks you for a student name. So I'm going to be first name student, last name example. The teacher board, the instructor board is on the left. The student board is on the right. Okay, just to give you a little bit of a frame of reference. So I can lock and unlock these boards. I can change it so that I can only see things that are happening. On the left-hand side is really where all your tools live, with one exception. On the right-hand side, you have objects and gizmos and widgets, which I'll spend a little bit of time showing you. I tried to put some examples in as we went along. And you can also, on the bottom, you'll see the student only has one view, has that little page view that it can navigate between pages. As the instructor, I have a thumbnail view, I have a grid view, and I can go and manage boards. So if I click on the thumbnail view, you'll see it gives me kind of a slide sorter view, right? Which is helpful if I wanted to jump between pages. But what I really want to do is be able to see what's going on. So this is all of my students, right? So I have my students, I have some sample students in here from before. I can see in live time what they're doing, right? And I can choose to highlight them. So this is the example of the sample student that I'm pretty sure I'm logged in with right now. You can change, you can add information, you can highlight them. So if I click up on them and then let's say I'm the student over here and I get a drawing tool and I want to make a line, I'm going to make a line. I really meant to make a curve. Let's see. I'm going to curve and I'm going to circle this, draw this curve right here, because that's where I want to say that I am, right? Now, what you can do is I can showcase their work, which pushes it out to everybody, but it does it anonymously, which is really, really kind of cool. And then I can stop showcasing their work and it brings me back to my teacher educator screen, which is really nice. Again, that's the kind of grid view that shows you everybody that's in your whiteboard file at once. and how they're doing or what page they're on or what they're annotating. So let me go to the next page. And for just a second, I'm going to make my student board much, much smaller so I can show you some of these features. I love those that will lock boards because I do think we, especially as students got used to being on their own and doing lots of work individually, we have lots of kids that will just next. What do I have to do to finish this assignment? And being able to kind of in the moment monitor their work, I think makes a world of difference. So in whiteboard.chat, you can embed YouTube videos. And again, it looks very different on the student end. They don't see the start and stop times and some of the things that are on the instructor board side, right? But they can go in and answer the question, and then I can see what work they're doing. And it's great because a lot of times you don't want to open up YouTube, right? You don't want to say, let's go out to YouTube, because then you get ads and you get other videos like the other videos. So being able to just have here, we're going to talk about plates and tonics, not my area of expertise, but plate tectonics. And then we're going to have you do an arrow diagram down here, right? And you'll see as I'm moving in my educator one on the left-hand side, you'll see on the right-hand side, it shows me where I am as the educator, right? I would maybe change my name so it would say Miss Wern if I didn't want them to know my first name as a teacher, but it shows them where is the teacher pointing. So just another cue of where is the teacher in this work, right? So you can embed YouTube videos. And right now I don't have it set that it forces the student to follow along with me, but that's also an option. So this is an activity that you could go in and just say, okay, we're going to put text in here and we're going to work on that text, right? I want you to underline something. I want you to highlight something, and I want you to put some text in this box to answer a question, right? There are tons of tools in this product. These are letter tiles. There's a tile maker that allows you to go through and make a tile of anything. You'll see I have ASL tiles down here, and I have letter tiles up here. This is in this document to remind me to show you those things. So on the right-hand side of the educator whiteboard, you'll see there's my objects, where you can go in and there's a ton of little gizmos you can put in, letters, pictures. You'll see that there are tons of what they call gizmos or images, currency from other countries, other alphabets, animals and people. If you teach biology or chemistry, they have all of the little structures of elements that you might need in biology or chemistry. You can do experiments and show and break down the elements. Again, not my area of expertise. There's certain festivals that have very specific things. All the math symbols you could ever need are in here. And again, it gives them a way that you could set the problem up. Everything from coding to comics to mind maps to talking about the weather. They have feedback and reward stickers and those kinds of things. And those are all under gizmos. And then under widgets are kind of tools for you as an educator. You can do a spinner with student names, again, all contained within whiteboard.chat. You can spotlight things. Students, you can give a student signal like, hey, stop that. Or you can have a student signal you, I'm good, thumbs up, keep going. You can embed a website, not just a YouTube video, right? You can embed a YouTube like I showed you with the other video. And you can make tiles. You can have fraction dice that are there. You can have, again, a graphing calculator. The goal of whiteboard.chat is for it to all be in one place. So you can set your files up and not have to go out to 14 different tabs to utilize them. So to make tiles, you just go in and you tell it what you want. So it tells you exactly what you would type to make matching cards, to make guessing tiles, to make card formats. If you just simply wanted to make a tile, you would say, what's on the tile? In this case, I'm going to say tile is on the tile. What color you want the tile to be? I want it to be black. And I want the text to be white. That's all you have to put. You could make a whole list of them, But then I just click OK, and then you'll see down here is my little tile I created that becomes manipulative, right? You can also set it so that the students can clone it. That was that infinite cloner I was talking about, that they can move it, right? If you don't click that they can move it, they can't do anything with the tiles, right? You can change it, you can fix it so that the size is static, that they can't make it bigger or smaller. And again, like I said, you can make ASL tiles. That's one of the things we asked for. And so now it's created, and this is the word tile. It just happens to be a tile in fingerspelling. There are tons more features that go along with the ability to play in whiteboard.chat, but I want to give you a few minutes to jump into the document if you haven't already. You can either go to the website and put the code in, go to this short link, which I will drop in the chat. And I think some of you have, because you have the slides, had already jumped in, which is completely okay. Or one of the things that whiteboard.chat does automatically is generate this QR code. So when I go to share my whiteboard and I invite them, the QR code is right there. You can also copy the link. You can invite them via Classroom or Microsoft Teams. You can also add your co-teacher so that they can go in and manipulate things and they have more privileges than just a student. So I want to give you a couple minutes to kind of go in and peruse. There's a couple of pages. Again, you can just kind of move through 5, 6, and 7. There's music note paper. So if you have a music teacher, they could utilize it to build their lessons out. I put a Venn diagram in here. And again, this might be a paper pencil worksheet you're having a student use, but if that student paper pencil doesn't work for them, it's as easy as having the Venn diagram, and instead of them having to write it, they can grab it and just move it over. And when it comes down to it, I don't care whether that student wrote it or they drug the answer to the correct place, especially when we're talking about content knowledge. It's not a test of their handwriting skills, right? We want to know, do they know this knowledge? And that's the more important thing. And when you go in and be able to tell them, okay, do they know all these features? And this is not correct answers by any means. There are ways to do activities that are only unlocked when it's correct. And again, longer webinar than just this little quick overview, but there are ways to go in and say, this has to equal this certain thing before they can go on to the next page. And I don't have it set as a password, but you could. We have a spinner activity. Again, it could be student names. In this case, it is the ability for you to go in and spin and be able to tally and work on doing a frequency chart. Based on whatever your frequency is, it could send them to another quiz, right? You can build in a link to a quizzes or a Quizlet. It tells you right here, if you're a student and you aren't sure, it tells you, go get the pen tool, go in and say, I want to, click and draw, and I want to add one there. That wasn't the answer, it was jackfruit, but I want to add one here. And at the end, maybe we have 3 of them and that's my highest one, right? So I'm going to click on this fruits quiz and go out and do whatever it is the next activity my teacher has lined for me. So in terms of being able to go through and again, we're looking for engagement. We're looking for how can we keep students engaged, whether you use this at a one-to-one, everybody's sitting at their desk. There is also just a whole board kind of ability that everybody can be in the same Jamboard, same whiteboard file like we are right now. But you guys all have individual copies of it. So the instructor would have their version up, and then each student has their student board, kind of like I showed you, that sets the stage for us to see the work that they're doing individually. They have access to it, and it automatically does that. You don't have to create copies or anything like that. So I can pull up my grid view as an educator and see all the people that are hanging out in the whiteboard and where they are and what they're doing. Some people are on different pages. Some people are on the first page. It allows me to show and hide. If I had more than just showed up, I could search. And again, there are tons of fonts that are very teacher friendly. The kindergarten teacher helpers, the Open Dyslexic and Lexend. when we're talking about users who have disabilities. They're very helpful features that you could go in and utilize. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to show you about whiteboard.chat. Let me get to an end page. Does anybody have any questions while I'm getting to a blank page to show you? Any questions in the chat, or you want to unmute so I can kind of show you anything else that it can do? One of the things that I asked specifically for them to be able to do was to be able to count money. So I had a student that was working on counting money, and it was a real struggle for them to be able to do what we wanted them to do, because they kept losing their money calculator that I had given them. You know, it was a real struggle for them to be able to do what it is that we were asking of them to do. So I can put a drop zone in there, and you can add that have that drop zone do many, many things. But one of them, every time they update it, I have to look and see where it is that they put, make an auto counter. Okay, so this is automatically set, and you'll see it's got a dollar amount there. So I can come over to my objects and go into gizmos, go back to currency, and the currency I know how to count is US. So let's say we're just working on coins. I can go drop a couple coins and a couple dollar bills in. And okay, so I'm going to set these so that students can clone them. Now, if I'm doing a teaching lesson and I want to kind of demonstrate what this looks like, I can clone it, bring it over, and watch what happened to my counter box. It automatically put that dollar amount in. So I can do the same with this. Let's say I want to, you know, clone this penny. I'm going to drop a dime in. It automatically made the amount $1.10, right? And again, for some students, they don't need this feature, but to be able to real time bring it up, let them come up to the whiteboard or work at their computer and interact with this feature, I think in a lot of ways is a game changer, because we can customize to what they need. I could bring up a screen shade and I can draw a screen shade so that they only see the $20 bill for a while. And then I can adjust the screen shade after it's done. I can go and get the select tool and I can be like, okay, now let's add a penny. All right. Now let's add a dime. Again, all of the widgets, all of the everything, if you wanted to reinforce them, you could add a YouTube video they like that they get to watch a little bit of it right afterwards. Or I could just add a xylophone just for the heck of it, that they get to play a tune on the xylophone after they get the question right. And again, it is so feature rich. It is so kind of deep and wide in all of the things that it can do. That I hesitate to even show a little bit of it, but I think it gives you a good taste for all of the things that are possible, which is this and more. There are tons of widgets and supports and ways to utilize the features of it without having to go other places. I think that's one of its big sells. The second big sell I can really make, and again, I say sell, but it's free, is that, you know, you're able to make the activity that you need, you're able to customize it to whatever a student or students need, and then you have it, right? Which is really nice. If you go to manage boards, you'll see that they, for most people, will expire after a while, and you can just renew the expiration, right? So you can just keep yours from forevermore. The only thing they do charge, you'll see this pricing up here, is that if you do want to be able to not have to refresh your files after a while, you can pay for storage for them. That's the only thing, but you can use it without having any storage. They are partners with all of these people. And again, you can monitor work, or you can use it just for teaching. So you can start a an individual board or one big collaborative board, or students can join right from the website without having to have any information. There's a tons of YouTube supports out there. If you go to the help, looks like they have another webinar on the 21st. They are constantly doing them. If you go to the help section on their main website, it brings up a total list of how do you do this, how do you do that. Probably the best resources are under guides. They have a teacher's guide to whiteboard.chat, which again is 100% like FAQ. You can kind of go through, and there's also PDF versions, but it shows you every feature that's available, every way that you can use it. And they have a similar guide just for students that breaks it down. How do you join your teacher's class? What does your board look like? And how do you get around it? So tons of resources. All of those little help guides are linked in the Wakelet. So I know I showed you a couple different, do you see that there's one that could land that you would maybe want to explore more? Are there features that you still feel like, oh man, that's amazing, or I wish it could, right? And again, as you're thinking through that, I want to make sure that you know you have a product that will work for you, whether you're a Google district and you jump into Jamboard, or you are Microsoft district and you have to use Microsoft Whiteboard. There are still some really cool tools there. If you don't have either, or you don't want to use either of those, you have Explain Everything and you have Whiteboard.chat. All of them are available. And again, you know, I like that we have options because not everyone has access to the same things that the others do. All of those resources and way more are in this whiteboard.tools, explanations of how you use individual things, and help guides, links to examples, links to YouTube videos for all 4 products. So I'm really glad you spent an hour with me today, because I know you guys have a lot of things to do with your time, and I hope that it was helpful. You have access to the slides. You have access to this recording to watch again, and you can always reach out to me. My email is there. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at that, at Wern EDAT. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. I know that was a lot of information to toss at people.
It was awesome. It was awesome. I'm wondering, so here's what I'm thinking, Elisa, can you do this? If you were in the Microsoft tool and you pulled up one of those templates, can you right click it and save it as a picture that you could then put into a Jamboard as a background?
If you can't right click it, you could certainly use your snipping tool on any platform to use that. So and again, if you find a template that you like, chances are there's a PDF of that kind of sort of template out there. Those are just graphically designed really nicely for whiteboard work. That's
what I was thinking, is they were just really, they looked really nice.
So you could dive into the snipping tool. And I think the Microsoft Education space has some of those also as printables. So you could go pull the PDF of it. And, you know, as much as I'm a Google fan, I think Microsoft has come leaps and bounds since the pandemic started in their accessibility in some of their tools. So I think any and all of those are options. But again, you know, and a lot of times teachers have a template that they really like to use in paper format. I have teachers that are fans of the hamburger template when they go to write, or the ice cream template, right? So put that up there and let kids use it, you know, interactively. You can build an ice cream cone with shapes.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. It's just that I was thinking about that idea of getting past the fact that someone might not have the Microsoft account, but getting those
really rich
slick looking templates. They're really nice. I've never gone into that Microsoft tool, so that's really
those are relatively new, like in the last 6 months, 8 months or so. They've continually been updating the whiteboard tool. It used to be you have some pen tools and some post-it note kind of tools. And now it's just kind of ballooned into a very good learning tool.
It's awesome. I think it's great. Very cool. Anybody else as we start to wrap up and we let Elisa go? Any other questions or comments or thoughts? Thank you all for being here and for participating. That was fun. I like digging into all those tools. And you did remind me why I like Explain Everything so much.
I forgot how much I love that tool.
Right? That was Jen. I'm sitting in here going, man, I forgot. I really like this tool.
I think And again, it's one of those things that none of these tools are limited to, oh, we're just doing virtual learning. There are
Yeah.
tons of ways to integrate these tools into a brick and mortar, sitting in front of your student's classroom. Even if we are not a one-to-one device district where I work, even if you're not, even if you have students, you have a couple students that may have devices because they have it as an AT device, and then that teacher has it projected up whole class on the board. Even that is a really great way to build in some interactivity.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. Awesome. Well,
This is
everybody,
great. I'm
thank
so
you.
glad this is recorded too, so
Yes,
we
me
can spread the
too.
word for folks that couldn't join us.
I think it's great. Thank you, everybody, for spending your time this afternoon with us. Elisa, thank you
Of
for
course.
your AT Expert webinar. I'm living it for a minute. It's nice living it for a second. It's all right.
I really love whiteboard tools. So if it means that you consider me an expert of whiteboard tools, then I will take it.
All right, take it. I'm giving it to you. Take it. All right, let me turn the recording off. Thank you, everybody.